What is going on, Angel fans? I'm I almost all those podcasts, but I don't know what to really call this because this is more. If you've been following, this is kind of going to be one of our exclusive online. Oh, there it is. Online conversation. First up, I wanted to bring up obviously a guy that if you have listened to the podcast, you um, have heard his voice. His name is Andrew. He has the account Angels Top Plays. Andrew, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing? Excited to be back on with you guys.
Yeah, man, excited to have you on. So obviously, if you're new to this, we're streaming live on our YouTube, our Facebook, and our uh, Twitter page. So this is going to be pretty fun. This is again, it's like our second go around. So still trying to figure some things out as we go. But obviously, I wanted to bring him on. I wanted to bring Angels Top Plays on because of what happened last night and a lot of talk about what happened last night. And obviously we'll get into it, but the trade for Blake Snell, how did that hit you?
Oh man, first reaction, it kind of stung, just because Blake Snell was someone I knew the Angels were targeting. It was someone who I was really hoping they'd end up getting at some point. If things kind of if the offseason kind of just worked out that way. I did not know the Padres were deep in talks or really pursuing that avenue with Blake Snell, so it was kind of shocking to see them jump in. Yeah, well, my first response I posted on Instagram was legit. It literally stung to see that news come by on my phone.
Yeah, you can see here the breaking news for Jeff Passons. It ended up being four prospects that went to the Rays in return for Blake Snell. The top one being their top pitcher. I forget his last name, but he was like number 23 pitcher over or a prospect overall in MLB. When you saw what they got in return, did that surprise you? Or do you think the Angels could have, I guess, topped it? Do you think the Angels could have competed with an offer that ended up getting Snell?
Yeah, I think they could have competed with the offer, but it would have been a larger hit on our farm system than it is on the Padres farm system. I think it's clear that the Rays were uh, trying to replace some young pitching. And that's clearly the Padres have more young pitching than the Angels do. For us, I think it would have been we would have had to. I don't know if we would end up giving them Adele or March, just looking at what they got, but for sure, I think the Detmers, Rodriguez, uh, Canning, Suarez, Barria, probably two of those names would have had to go in trade.
Oh, yeah, that's the one thing you notice right away when the Snell thing came up was that um, a young controllable arm was going to have to be attached to it. And honestly, the only real young controllable arm that has any value right now is a Reed Detmers, who they just drafted out of Louisville this last draft. And when you figure Detmers was going to have to be kind of the centerpiece to a trade like that, that to me, I don't know about yourself, but how did you feel? Were you even willing to even think about the Angels doing a trade like that?
Man, it's tough to say. I've been on the side of man, that's a tough question. I've been on the side of not wanting to throw away a lot of top prospects, specifically in pitching. I've kind of like reasoned with the possibility of trading Adele or Marsh. Um, but our system just lacks pitching so much. It'd be hard to see that top arm go like that. And I think there's other people on the market that we could go after, other pitchers that we could get that wouldn't require giving up such a top pitching prospect for us.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I think the Padres obviously are in a way better um, situation prospect wise than the Angels. I believe the Padres were, top five, top six
Yeah,
farm system, and the Angels are still probably around that middle ground of 12, 13. They're just able to have more prospects and not going to feel the heat as much as the Rays or as much as the Angels will if they give up some of their top guys. Kind of like moving forward now, what are some of the targets you hope through trade? Obviously free agency, we
mm-hmm.
have the Bowers, we have the Paxtons, we have all those guys that are kind of I guess depending on which Angel fan you ask, are on their wish list. But going through the
Yeah,
trade market, what kind of guys are you hoping the Angels are like targeting and hopefully are able to kind of work out some kind of a deal?
yeah. I think. I mean, one thing to quickly know is that, granted, I was sad to see Snell drop off the board. But there's still a ton of options out there for the Angels to go after. I know that they're in serious talking with a number of teams and really working to at least add 2 pitchers. That was something that was speculated earlier, was that they're trying to add at least 2. And then Joe Madden, I think 3 weeks ago, so kind of confirmed that there's more than one mindset going into this offseason. And so there's a lot of talk of Joe Musgrove of the Pirates. He's someone that was drafted by the Blue Jays when Perry Manassian was one of their scouts. Ended up getting sent to, I'm trying to look back at his trade history. So he was drafted by the Blue Jays. He was then sent to the Astros in a trade, and then sent to the Pirates in a trade. The trade that got the Astros Garrett Cole, and he's kind of been on the Pirates since then. I think he's a great target coming in at 28. He's got 2 years of arbitration left. He's owed $3.7 million in this coming season, so it definitely fits within the budget, allowing us to add possibly another pitcher in free agency. Another guy on the Pirates, Jameson Taillon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that last name right.
Right.
But he's 29. Did I say it right? Yeah. So
yeah.
He's 29. Another couple years of control left. But if we're looking at what is an ace type arm, those are 2 guys with like big upside. If you're looking at the other, like an ace arm, we could add Sonny Gray's kind of the biggest name that's still out there. At 31, I'm looking at 3 years left to control under contract, all around $10 million a year. It looks like him and Luis Castillo, I think, are 2 top arms that are going to be available for trade that Angels are probably looking into.
Yeah, and that's a great name you pull out there with Sonny Gray. That's one of the guys that I have been really high on ever since his time in Oakland. Even when he was in New York and he was struggling, I said back then, if they can somehow pull a trade to get him over back to California and Southern California, and a smaller market, because honestly, that's what it seemed like it was. It was the market guys maybe got to him. Maybe not everyone's built to pitch in New York, but he's done really good in Cincinnati. That's the kind of guy that when the trade talk came up with Snell, I'm like, I think you can probably get just as much production out of a Gray type with far less going back towards Cincinnati. And to be honest, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, DMing back and forth on Instagram, if you're going to have a trade partner, it's better to have a trade partner in Cincinnati than Tampa Bay, because it always seems like Tampa Bay, when these big blockbusters come, Tampa Bay is always the type that benefits from it. People think it's crazy that they're getting up Snell with so many years of control, and that's exactly what they did with Chris Archer going to Pittsburgh. And Archer hasn't had great numbers in Pittsburgh, and the haul that the Rays got back, a lot of those guys contributed in this last World Series run. And it just, if you're going to pick a trade partner, a lot of times Tampa Bay isn't the one you want, because somehow they always figure out a way to come on the positive end of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Rays have been scary good at these big blockbuster trades, because you said it best. Like they just tend. I mean, looking at this Padres Rays trade right now, you can't see the winners. I think both sides got what they were looking for, and I think it works on both sides. And then in 2-3 years, we can evaluate how it actually went. And Rays do tend to come up on top of that somehow. I don't know if they got a time machine or what, but they can tell when it's time to sell these players. I think I just had lost track of. I wanted to talk about Sonny Gray some more, because you brought up an interesting point about him in the small market. So I kind of went back and looked at his Oakland stats, and he was a stud in Oakland. And you look at like his 2019, he was like kind of solid in 2020. It's a short year, so it's hard to say, but threw up a 3.7 ERA with a 3.05 FIP. But then it was an All-Star 2019. So I think looking at the Sonny Gray as a possible trade target, someone who I'm sure they're targeting, you're definitely going to get him for cheaper than Snell. I think he's someone we can get without giving up top pitching prospects, and could very well give us the same production as what Blake Snell would have given us. At a bit more of a cost, because like I say, he's running about $10 million a year, but usually money hasn't been the Angels' problem.
Yeah, and that's a good thing too, is that Artie has said, or there's been reports saying that the payroll isn't going to go down. You're seeing a lot of teams like the Pittsburgh, like the Chicago Cubs, like Cincinnati, they're cutting payroll. Like they're trying to get rid of guys. As we're speaking right now, the Yu Darvish trade probably will be official at some point during this conversation, and that's because
Yeah.
the Cubs are trying to cut costs, and you can see it in a lot of teams. And it was refreshing to hear that Artie isn't going to do that. So I think the Gray payroll hit isn't going to be a huge kind of concern. It's I think honestly what they have to give up, because like you mentioned, I don't think it's going to cost one of those top arms, whether it is a Detmers or whether it is a Rodriguez. Maybe it's a 1-for-1, Marsh for Gray. I don't know. And I think you do that trade, but it's definitely not going to be one of these things you're seeing now where Snell went for 4 like 3 top end prospects and a guy that's, kind of struggling a little bit, 4 guys total. And now you're hearing the Darvish trade is going to be, a 2-for-5 kind of deal. Darvish and his personal catcher, I forgot his last name, on the way to San Diego for, prospects, but none of those prospects are in the Padres top 10. So they don't really lose any more top guys. So obviously you kind of hope that you can find a bargain somewhere that can still be productive. Luis Castillo, you mentioned him. He's, I think, a better pitcher than a Gray. How do you think that trade proposal is going to have to look like if the Angels are serious about bringing him over?
Yes, I'm taking a peek right now at the Reds' top 30 prospects, and I'll read off like the top 5, just their positions at least. They got a left-handed pitcher, right-handed pitcher, outfielder, catcher at number 4, and a third baseman at number 5. And of those guys, only 2 of them are projected, or 4 to 5 are projected to enter the league in the next 2 years. So I think where the Angels' strength is, at least in prospects, is in our middle infielders. We have a good handful of middle infielders from Luis Rengifo to, oh man, I'm blanking on names, but we have depth.
You have Jemai Jones. You have,
that's what I was trying to think of, Jones. Yeah. I think one of those names you see in that trade, trying to get Luis Castillo. And like you said, I don't know. For him, it'd probably take one of those guys and maybe like a second, possibly a third, depending on how many other teams are involved in trying to get Castillo. But I think that they can go ahead and try to send one of those middle infielders as one of those main trade pieces.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things too with the Snell trade. It didn't seem like it would work with the Angels just because you look at where the Angels have a lot of talent, like you mentioned, is the middle infield. Now they signed a guy from the I think it was Japan today, so that theory kind of went out the window as a middle infielder. But as prospect wise, you would think they don't need a middle infielder when they have a young, well, besides Machado, but a pretty good solid infield. So it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Being realistic and kind of thinking about what the Angels should give up and all that stuff, which one of these guys do you think is realistic for the Angels to kind of bring over?
Oh man, I do think that Gray and Castillo are both 2 arms that the Angels can realistically add. Musgrove is an interesting one to keep an eye on because his name's kind of been popping up more and more lately. Just because a lot of other names a lot of other teams are also checking in on him. So it's possible that the price is going to run up on him. And then you look at the Rockies as well. I think the Rockies have a few kind of mid, like 3-4 possibly about like 3-4 pitchers, like John Gray, Jeremy Marquez, and Kyle Freeland, who are possible targets. And I think they're all realistic. I know the Angels are wanting to add a top tier arm. And for me, that as far as what we're looking at right now is, you're like we talked about between Sonny Gray and Luis Castillo, and I think both of them are potential targets with our middle infield kind of the amount of middle infielders that we have. I think they're both realistic targets.
Which way would you rather go? Kind of all in on Bauer, or kind of maybe work out a trade with one of these guys and bring in maybe like a secondary arm like a Paxton, which I'm not crazy about, but can still be like a secondary arm. And which way would you rather see the Angels go?
Oh man, that's hard. And I'm glad I don't have to make this decision in real life. It's hard. I think I'd rather see a trade happen. I think the value's there. I know that I get worried about getting bogged down in a long-term contract. I'm probably traumatized being an Angels fan because that's happened to us several times in the last decade. And so being able to make a trade with one of these guys and add on, and yeah, being able to make a trade, get someone that has good value for the money that they're being paid. But I'm not looking to blow up the farm system. I'm kind of in a spot where I don't want the Angels to go out and try to build up the farm system because we're in this win-now state, but I also don't want us blowing up the farm system. I'd like for us to stay in kind of this average like spot, like around like number 15, like 15 to 20, I'd be fine with. So I guess that means I'm leaning, towards wanting to make a trade for one of these guys.
You hear a lot on Angels. I'm sure you get it a lot on your pages, but people saying, the Angels need to win now because of Trout. The Angels need to have already wasted X amount of years of Trout and time's running out. How do you feel about that? As far as because Trout's such a great player and obviously he is going to go down as the best Angel in history,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel like the organization owes him to kind of sell out and do what they need to do to get him a victory, or do you think the organization needs to have kind of a longer view of everything?
I mean, as far as longer view, I think as long as we can look is within Trout's contract. I think without a doubt the team owes Mike Trout a playoff appearance. I think the team owes baseball a playoff appearance. It's like our image as the Angels right now has become like the team that's keeping Mike Trout out of the playoffs. And I got to imagine that fires up Artie Moreno. I'd hope that would fire Artie Moreno. Because Mike Trout being, the best player in baseball has chosen to commit his entire career to this organization. And that's huge. He could have literally gone to free agency last year and gone wherever he wanted for as much as he wanted. And for him to choose the Angels as the team that he wants to make his career out of and live his entire life and his whole career with the Angels has got to mean a ton to that front office and to this organization. So, it's a delicate balance because you'd like to create a more sustainable winning team and not just win out for like 2 years and return to being garbage with no future in the next 10.
Well, let me ask you this real quick while you kind of get your thought together. No problem. So you're showing, Seventh Heaven, the 2002 World Series victory. At that time, Salmon was considered Kingfish, Mr. Angel, but he wasn't the best player at the time on the Angels. You could talk about Troy Glaus, you could talk about Garrett Anderson. There's other guys that can give you an argument of who was the best Angel at the time. So I guess what I'm thinking is, do you want to see them try to win the next 2 or 3 years where there's a good chance Trout will be that reason why they win? Or do you see them, or would you rather like kind of like we mentioned, like, let's hold off. We don't necessarily have to trade a bunch of guys right now, but maybe there's years but maybe Trout's just in the twilight of a career, but he's still getting there. He's still getting a world champion. Would you rather see him, be the reason, or just be, like Salmon was towards the end of his career, but still able to get that ring?
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying there. I'd rather have more sustainable winning than winning a lot in the next 2 or 3 years. So with that in mind, like I guess that kind of answers the question. I'm not selling completely right now just to win a lot in these next few years, because you're right. That's going to be around. We can still build a lot around him to be able to be a team that's repeatedly making the playoffs in the next decade. And we can do that with the payroll. We're a team that spends a lot of money, and we're lucky to have an owner that is okay with doing that. We've improved the farm system a lot, and we just kind of have to balance out and be able to add pieces to be more competitive now, but maybe realistically winning a World Series in 3 years. I'd be okay with that. Trout would be, quote unquote, out of his prime. He'd still be in his lower 30s, and who knows what he's going to be doing at that time. But I would rather that than say win a World Series in 2 years and then like fall into being garbage for the next 5 years,
5-6 years. Yeah, going to kind of like a rebuild mode. And that's kind of where my thing was too, is like, I want them to win a championship, obviously with Trout. But at the end of the day, I'm an Angels fan. I've been a fan before Trout. I'll be a fan after Trout. I guess each fan is different. I can see where they're coming from, but I'm the type that I feel kind of uncomfortable mortgaging the future for a 3-year run when anything can happen in those 3 years. I mean, the wrong guy goes down to injury, and then that's 1 year kind of scrapped. You get unlucky bounce. That's another year. I mean, you look at the Dodgers. It took them 5 years to get to that championship, and that was because they built a reliable farm system and can bring guys up for cheap. And and still be able to compete, but have those cheap guys to where they can pay for other guys. So we were talking about a little
well,
while
I
ago,
think,
and real quick, and it is confirmed.
yeah,
Darvish to San
I
Diego,
want to
so
add
there's
real quick.
another guy.
Oh,
Go ahead.
oh yeah, there it is. I want to add real quick. One thing I've liked about Manassian is he's basically saying that. He's saying, like, we need to bring in the right players. We also need to, like, bring in the right staff. Like, we have to create a winning system from the minors all the way up to the bigs. And so he's very much got this long-term mindset. He wasn't brought in to necessarily win, like, this season or next, right? He's brought in to create just an overall more winning system. So it sounds like that's the direction they're trying to move in with bringing in Manassian.
I agree completely. And you see some of the guys that he is bringing in, and where they come from. Some of them are all coming from like different backgrounds, from the Brewers. They went a certain way. And I kind of mentioned this before on other live streams, like, he's bringing in guys that the Brewers win a certain way. He's bringing in a guy from the Dodgers win a certain way. He's bringing in guys from the Braves. They have to win a certain way because of the market size. So it's not all guys going about it one certain way. And it seems like he is really interested in kind of mixing and matching the best ways to win, and not only win now, but kind of in the long term. So that's something I think as Angel fans, they can really look forward to. But, GM is tricky. How long do you think he has before Angels fans start, kind of grinding their pickaxes and going after him?
Oh man, 2 weeks maybe.
This offseason, if no one comes over.
Yeah, Angels fans have we've had our hopes up really high for adding some pitching in the last 2 or 3 years, and just haven't fully seen it come to fruition and getting some of these top names. So I think in a rightful sense, we're being a little impatient, but it's his first time being a GM. He understands that he's surrounding himself with a lot of experience and a lot of the right people. It sounds like so. Man, I don't know if I can predict when the when Angel fans will turn on him, but I hope they don't. I think I can't put a number on it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I was kind of leading you down the path. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it like I said, he's going the right way. We'll see what's going on. Obviously, we weren't too sure if anything was going to happen before New Year's, and the Padres kind of nuked that whole idea. So we'll see what happens with the signings and everything like that. Real quick prediction, not necessarily to the Angels, but the first big free agent you think signs is who?
I think Real Muto has got to be coming soon. Oh yeah. I'm thinking Bauer is just gonna wait this out for too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be Real Muto or Springer. Actually, I'm gonna say Springer signs first. That's my prediction. I think I've heard more of his name in the chatter than Real Muto. So I think Springer's name is gonna be the next one to pop up. That's big.
And you kind of brought up Bauer and him kind of dragging it all on, and the Angels had a good thing going with Bauer to Anaheim, and that seemed to get a lot of run with him, and he's probably using it to drive up his price. But as a fan, are you still in on it? Are you kind of like, all right, dude, just tell me when you signed, or how do you feel about the whole the Bauer experience so far?
Yeah, the Bauer experience. I think that's a good way to put it. I respect Trevor Bauer. He's got his platform. It's up to him to how he wants to use it. I don't hate on him for necessarily the kind of social media game that he plays. I hope he's not dragging it out simply for the sake of the social media game. I'd like to think he's really trying to make, a life decision here and kind of trying to respect that. And at the same time, he's just taking advantage of the platform he's on. Yes, as a fan, I'm kind of just getting like a little, just like impatient, I guess, a little bit annoyed, just being like, all right, come on, let's get this done. We're about to hit January. I'm hoping within the first 2 weeks of January, he kind of decides where he's going. But I don't disrespect the game he's playing. I'm annoyed by it and watching him kind of troll and kind of pick on all these different fan bases to boost his following. Yeah, that annoys me a little bit. I want baseball news at this point. I'm sure you can agree.
Yeah, so that's a perfect thing to make sure you follow Angels Top Plays. It's there. Angels_Top Plays on IG, and then Plays Angels @Plays Angels on Twitter. I forgot to put the Twitter there, but you get the idea. And if you've been watching, it's been going down the bottom scroll for a little while. So, I'm sure you're going to be on top of it. We'll try to do as much as we can here at Halo Haven to talk about it and stuff like that. So, I want to thank you again for jumping on, and just a quick little impromptu, something that we're just trying to do a little more of, kind of an online exclusive here. So thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely. I was excited to get to this again, and I look forward to hopefully doing some more.
And so for our fans out there to look forward to, next Monday, we're going to have Archangel Pins, and we're going to talk about what he kind of brings to, or what he's been working on with his pins. And I know a lot of people out there have the set. So we'll be talking to him next Wednesday. And the next Wednesday or Thursday, we will be live again. Me, Johnny, Chris will all be back, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about the different trade possibilities going on with the Angels. And hopefully, if there's any more breaking news by then, we'll be talking about that as well. If you have any questions, you go ahead and send it to allangelspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's allangelspodcast@gmail.com. But until then, thank you guys very much for watching and kind of experiencing this live stream. Again, we're kind of trying something new. And if you are following us on one of our other platforms, Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, go ahead and follow us on all those other platforms, including Halo Haven on Instagram. And hopefully Instagram someday soon we'll be able to live stream like this on there too. So until then, thanks again for watching. I am Down Garcia, and this has been another edition of it's not even a podcast. I don't know what to call it. We'll figure it out later. Thank you again. And we'll see you